am Michelle Dewbs and I am keeping you company until 7 o'clock this evening. Alongside me, Daniel Moylan is the Conservative peer in the House of Lords, and Kevin Craig is a former Labour councillor and the CEO of PLMR. Hello.
Hello, Michelle.
I don't know what I was going to say then.
You're OK?
I am all right. Yeah. Well, actually, I'm not really. I've got an ulcer right on the tip of my tongue. It's absolutely killing me and causing me to speak with a lisp today. But other than that, I'm absolutely fine. And I push on. I'm a trooper.
Well done.
I come to work regardless. What did we make some of those headlines, by the way? All these strange things spotted in the skies. Are you frightened? Anything to do with UFOs?
I don't think they're aliens, no. I think they're Chinese. And the worrying thing is that there's a bunch of people in China at the top who believe that the right way to approach relations with the West is to take provocative and aggressive actions. So this sort of, you know we shouldn't do this, but let's get on and do it, give them a scare, see what happens, and see what we get away with. Excuse me, Michelle. Is very much the attitude of China, and it's very worrying because it's not the way civilised countries conduct themselves.
Very worrying. Are you worried, Kevin Craig?
I've been reminded of the vulnerability that we have to intrusions into our airspace, and I'm greatly reassured by the fact that we've got a great military.
Well, yeah, well, you say we've got a great military. Many people would say it's very underfunded right now, isn't it? You tell me, what do you make of all this stuff flying in our skies? Concerning or not? Get in touch with me tonight. gbviews@gbnews.uk is my email, or you can tweet me at GBNews. Lots to discuss with you guys tonight. Brexit. Is it all kind of, have you heard about the secret meetings going on? They don't sound that riveting, I have to say, but nonetheless, some people are saying this is Brexit, the attempts to overthrow Brexit. Is it? And have you seen these government procurement cards as well? What do you make to them? Labour are having a field day today, I tell you. There's a website set up and everything, all about the amount of money being wasted by people on frivolous things, such as photo booths was one of the examples cited. Also, as well, business rates. Is it time to scrap them? And if you're shouting yes at your telly or your radio, can you tell me what you're going to do to raise the funds that we currently receive from those business rates? And did you see the situation over in Liverpool? Of course, in response to some of the goings on there, some of the allegations about people propositioning schools kids. Do you think that it's time now that the government get a hold of this hotel situation, their policy? And if so, what do they do about it? And by the way, I can't help but notice, any time any of these protests even commence, they're immediately described as far right. I really don't think that's very accurate, do you? Anyway, let's get into our first story then, shall we? Brexit. There was a secret meeting, I tell you, a two-day meeting. It got people together from apparently both sides of the fence. The former Brexit negotiator, Lord Frost, he wasn't invited though. Many people are saying it was all about an attempt to overthrow Brexit. It was the first to sell. It's like a sellout, the first step. Well, I say the first step. That's an under-exaggeration. Many people would say there's been many steps so far. Daniel Moylan, where are you on it?
Yeah, well, it was all organised by Peter Mandelson, and I think that tells you everything. He's still, of course, in receipt of an EU pension, and he has taken an oath of loyalty to the European Union, which is still valid, and his pension depends on it. So it was all organised by Peter Mandelson. There's no doubt at all, and the most depressing thing about it is that these people see the problems facing the country, and we are facing problems. And instead of thinking, we can solve it, we Britain, we British people can solve our problems, the first thing they do, like a dog back to his vomit, is say, we need to get closer to the EU. And that's really what this is all about. If they wanted a two-day meeting about the challenges facing this country, if they wanted to talk about the difficulties we have with high interest rates and what should be done about them, the difficulties of people being able to buy homes as opposed to being constant private renters, if they wanted to talk about the serious issues facing the country, fixing the NHS and so on, that would have been great. But what do they want to talk about? How we can make love to the European Union. Nobody in the European Union is holding meetings to find out what we want in Britain. The only way to get close to the European Union is to do what they want. They've made that very clear. And that's what these people are lining us up for.
Doesn't wash with Lord Moylan. Kevin Craig, thoughts?
Well, very strong views from Lord Moylan there, and let's remind ourselves that this gathering was cross-party, so you had Liberal Democrat, Labour, and in particular Labour and Conservative politicians there. Michael Gove was there.
Didn't dare tell the Prime Minister, though, did he?
Well, I know, but I think the Prime Minister now knows, and as the Prime Minister's spokesman said, he found out from the newspapers. I don't think we should be worried, Michelle, because what this looks like to me was a cross-party gathering of well-intentioned people with no desire to try and overturn Brexit, right? That wasn't the point of the gathering. It was to ask the question, how can we as a cross-party group of people try and make this work better? And what is in the strategic and national interest of this country in terms of our relations with the EU? Lots of people have got very aerated today. I see that Nigel Farage has been calling it a sellout, but it isn't. It's basically saying, look, at risk of opening up old wounds here, personally, I don't think Brexit's going particularly well, and at least you have some serious politicians informally getting together to discuss it. And if Daniel is this aerated, I trust he's going to be writing to Michael Gove and asking for his resignation then for what he's done.
In terms of the positioning of this meeting, by the way, the title of this meeting was "How can we make Brexit work better with our neighbours in Europe?"
There we are.
A confidential introductory statement, though, for those at the meeting, said basically, for some at least, that so far the UK has not yet found its way forward outside the EU, with Brexit acting as a drag on our growth and inhibiting the UK's potential. My issue with that is if you want to be this cross-party group and all the rest of it, and truly your objective is how do we make the UK prosper going forward, to start with the position that, you know, Brexit basically is dragging us down, that is not an optimistic, positive, forward-thinking set of people.
No, it isn't. No, and you just have to ask, I mean, you know, Kevin says you're not these reasonable people there. David Lammy was there.
Great man.
David Lammy.
Great guy.
David
Great
Lammy,
bloke.
who went almost hysterical and off this planet in his opposition to Brexit, at times talking like he was a complete nutter. I know he's become more respectable again now, and I know he was respectable when he was a younger man. But he had this period of complete lunacy over Brexit, where he lost the plot completely. So they invite him. And of course, there were some Brexit supporters there, but we have to be clear. Not all Leavers obviously have different political views, and so do Remainers, when they might agree on Brexit and disagree on other things. Michael Gove has always been happy with the Theresa May deal. He was always happy with it. He always supported it. That was a deal which was overwhelmingly rejected 3 times by Parliament, which would have left us in very close alignment to the European Union, accepting their laws without actually having any say in them. So, I mean, I don't entirely trust Michael Gove. Now, I'm not going to ask for his resignation because I think the Prime Minister, having been sufficiently insulted by this behaviour on the part of a Cabinet Minister, will want to take his own steps. But, I mean, there we are. I think this is completely what it seems on the can. Okay. Mandelson, Gove, I'm afraid the whole lot, you can't trust them.
OK.
Not on this issue.
Well, look, let me just go back to Michelle.
That oath of loyalty, remember?
Michelle, your point there about starting the debate off very negatively.
It was a good point, wasn't it?
It was a fair point because it's your opinion, but it's also a statement of fact. Because many people, there were Brexiteers at this meeting, but it's a statement of fact that Brexit so far hasn't worked. Investment is down, the economy's contracted, there hasn't been the investment in the NHS. I think...
There's been vast investment in the NHS. Look, at the end of the day...
Not as a result of Brexit, it's been a total...
Right.
disaster.
So Brexit was voted for. Point number 1, it was never the outcome of that referendum, despite it being very clearly documented that you would follow on with whatever the outcome was. We spent goodness knows how long messing around because people refused to accept what the outcome was. So that was point 1. God knows how many years we waited on that. Point number 2, since then, we've shut down our economy essentially for what for most people was a cold, but I won't get into that one. But we've closed down our economy.
That's rubbish.
We've closed down our economy, rubbish. So we've made ourselves, take backward steps. Point 1. Also, we're putting up our corporation tax. We've just seen a company, I think it was last week now, AstraZeneca, saying that they're not going to choose the UK. Instead, they're going to go over to Ireland to set up their new premise because
Brexit.
of things like... No, they didn't reference Brexit.
Do you think it helped?
Well, why don't you ask the guy that made the decision, who directly quoted the tax regime in this country? He didn't reference Brexit, so why do you?
Well, I suspect that Brexit has
Kevin
something to do with it.
likes
And
Brexit,
also,
as you said.
are we still calling COVID-19 pandemic? Are we still calling it a cold?
No, what I said was, for most people, it was no worse than a cold.
I know, but the way
That
you
is my
talk
view.
about it sometimes is so trivial and sort of casting it aside as if it wasn't a major
the
pandemic.
responses that this country chose to make in response to COVID were absurd. When you look at the situation now, the mess that the economy is in, the fact that we're pretty much teetering onto recession, albeit not quite there yet, we've got excess deaths sky high. I would say that actually people should be sitting there looking backwards and feeling a little bit embarrassed about how ridiculous they were when it came to closing down this country. Yeah, I do think that.
Well, I don't want to cause you any offence, but I'm really glad you weren't in charge during the pandemic.
You won't offend me.
Well,
I'm a tough northern girl. I've got thick
I'm just
skin.
saying it because we're being nice to each other this year on this show, aren't we?
Yeah, you won't offend me. It takes a lot more than that, I can tell you. What do you make to this at home? Do you want a final word on the Brexit thing, Daniel?
Yeah, I think you've got to watch out very carefully, because we will be back under EU law very soon, especially if Starmer comes back. That's what he means when he says make Brexit work. He means make it work for the European Union.
No, he means listen to the British people.
And that's where we're going to be.
I think, and look, I really do respect you guys, Daniel. I just want to say, well, I do respect the differences on Brexit. I really do. I'd never agreed with it. I think it's been a disaster. But I can assure you that Keir Starmer has no intention of overturning a recent vote of the British people and genuinely wants to make it work.
He tried to. He spent a whole year trying to. When he was working for Corbyn.
His very clear position now is to move on and make it work, hence this meeting.
Yeah.
What do you think to it?